A Boeing 737, trying to descend through dense fog, veered off the runway and went straight into a grassy field, and with a violent jolt, its right landing gear tore off completely. But the miracle was that the pilots somehow managed to get this half-broken plane back into the air. Now the situation is this: one landing gear is missing, hydraulic system A has failed, fuel is running out rapidly, and ahead lies the same deadly fog where the runway will only become visible when the plane's nose gear is almost touching the ground. The question is simply this: can a plane with one wheel missing manage to land safely this time? The final battle of a half-broken aircraft. This is TNT Airways Flight 325 and 15 of June 2006, 5 AM. At Belgium's Liège airport, a TNT Airways Boeing 737 cargo plane stands ready. The plane reads TNT, the People Network, but today, the people behind that network are extremely exhausted. The captain is a 42-year-old Belgian pilot who became a captain only a few months ago. He has been on duty for the past 12 hours, and the fatigue is clearly visible under his eyes. With him is the 35-year-old first officer, who has only about 1,600 hours of flying experience. The two have been flying all night between Vienna, Istanbul, and Liège. There's light fog at Liège airport, but the runway lights are glowing bright. Cargo loading is complete, and the weight is well within the normal limits. Captain:
London's weather looks fine, but visibility might drop. Let's take extra fuel, 2 tons more.
First Officer:
Isn't that above the plan?
Captain:
Yes, but it's better to stay safe. Morning fog is unpredictable.
The flight plan required 5.5 tons of fuel, but the captain had 7.5 tons loaded, so that if the weather at London Stansted deteriorates, they can divert to an alternate airport. With everything ready, at 5:12 AM, in thick fog, TNT Airways Flight 325N takes off from Liège Airport. Up at altitude, the sky is a bit clearer, but the horizon still looks grey. Captain:
We're heading towards Stansted. It's about a 1-hour flight. Hopefully London's weather stays stable.
First Officer:
Sir, the NOTAM notice says Stansted's ILS is under maintenance.
Captain:
That means if the fog increases, we'll have to do a radar approach. No problem. We'll manage.
The plane reaches its cruising altitude of 24,000 feet. Both pilots sip their coffee while monitoring the weather. Just then, a radio report comes in saying visibility is 6 kilometers. Hearing this, the pilots feel a bit relieved. Captain:
After landing, I'm going straight to sleep.
First Officer:
Yeah, after finishing the paperwork first.
They laugh, unaware that this is just the calm before the storm. Even now, both pilots keep glancing at the weather monitor.
Then another radio update comes in. Visibility 4,900 meters, light mist.
Visibility has dropped slightly, but the captain takes a breath and says it's still manageable. But a few minutes later, a new ATIS report arrives, and that one report changes everything. Visibility has rapidly dropped to just 1,000 meters, because the fog is now so dense that the runway view has completely disappeared. The captain leans forward in his seat and quietly says,
This wasn't in the forecast.
The first officer checks the chart and says,
Sir, the ILS is still closed. Only surveillance radar approach available.
The captain's expression turns serious. ILS, Instrument Landing System, is the system that guides pilots to the runway during fog. But today, it's not available. Now they'll have to do a manual radar approach, meaning the runway won't be visible. Instead, ATC will give headings and altitudes over radio, and the pilots must descend using instruments alone. But this method is risky. because it requires at least 2,000 meters visibility, and visibility is just 1,000 meters, which means they legally cannot land.
So the captain says, "We'll hold. Maybe the sun will burn off the fog."
They receive instructions to descend to 6,000 feet, and the aircraft begins circling in a holding pattern northwest of Stansted. Below them, the fog is still spread out like a thick grey blanket. The pilots focus on only two things: fuel and time. The first officer radios that they can hold for 35 minutes. The captain replies,
"After that, we'll divert. Simple."
but they don't know that it's not going to be simple at all. Fuel is dropping quickly, and they know they may have to select an alternate airport any moment. So the captain leans over his control panel and sends a short ACARS text message directly to TNT Airways Liège Operations Control Center, the place that gives alternate and fuel planning instructions. The message appears on the screen. Which alternate do you prefer? They're asking the company which alternate airport they should divert to. Moments pass, but no reply comes. With every circle, fuel is burning and tension is rising. After waiting a bit, the captain finally says,
"All right, let's check the alternates ourselves."
The first officer checks the charts and
Says that East Midlands has 2,000 meters visibility. Liverpool has clear skies with 10 kilometers visibility. Meaning, East Midlands is closer but has a low ceiling. Liverpool is clear but a bit farther.
Before the pilots can make a decision, a short ACARS message pops up. Company prefers East Midlands. The captain smiles lightly, saying,
"Of course, makes sense for cargo."
The first officer adds,
"They have Cat 3A ILS available. We can auto-land."
The captain nods.
"All right then, let's go to East Midlands."
He radios in.
"Requesting diversion to East Midlands."
The tower replies,
"Roger, climb to flight level 100 and proceed direct to Nottingham East Midlands."
and just like that, the plane turns toward a new direction. The altitude increases, Stansted's fog is left behind, and faint rays of sunlight appear in the sky. But even that light looks grey through the fog. In barely half an hour, the aircraft is nearing its destination. It stabilizes at cruising altitude once again, and then begins its descent for the approach. The captain begins the approach briefing.
"Runway 27 expected, Category A ILS available, RVR 350 meters reported."
The first officer confirms the checklist. Autoland is armed, and both autopilots are ready. Both pilots try to ignore their fatigue, but they know this is going to be the toughest approach of their lives, because the fog is getting even thicker. The captain glances out the window. He sees nothing except a wall of dense fog. He smiles softly and says,
"Welcome to England."
The plane is steady, but the stress is obvious in their every move. The fuel gauge shows 3,500 kilos remaining. The captain says quietly,
"We only have one chance."
Finally, the aircraft enters the cloud layer and begins descending through it. The tower calls,
"Visibility 350 meters, wind calm, cleared for ILS, runway 27.
The captain responds.
"All right, let's go home."
The first officer flips through his folder, checking charts.
ILS frequency set, autopilot dual mode on, approach armed.
CAT-2IA Autoland is active for runway 27. This means the entire descent will be controlled by the autopilot. Outside, visibility is just 350 meters, meaning they'll see the runway for only a few seconds, if they're lucky. Captain, autopilots 1 and 2 engaged, glide slope captured, localizer alive. The first officer confirms, landing checklist complete. The plane descends through 2,000 feet. Inside the cockpit, only soft instrument beeps, and the hum of the engines can be heard. Their eyes are glued to the front panel. Everything outside is wrapped in white fog. Tower calls again.
Quality 325 November, cleared to land, wind calm, RVR 350 meters.
The captain takes a deep breath. Clear to land, 350 meters. Here we go. Flaps are fully extended. The plane is slowly descending. Both autopilots engaged, perfectly tracking the glide slope. But suddenly, a radio call comes through.
325 November, you are not to land here. At your discretion, you may go around.
For a moment, the cockpit goes silent. The first officer looks up and asks,
Was that cool for us?
The captain, confused, replies,
Sounded like it, but what does it mean, not to land here?
They hadn't heard the full call sign, and the tone was too casual. And with the first officer's weaker English accent, he assumes the call must be for some other flight and doesn't respond. The captain's mind is racing. Did the company say go around? Did the tower? And why now, at this moment? The plane is now at 500 feet. In a Cat 3A autoland, any distraction can mean disaster. The captain reaches for the push-to-talk radio button to clarify, but his finger slips, and he accidentally presses the autopilot disconnect button instead. A sharp click, followed by a loud warning tone, fills the cockpit.
Autopilot disconnect.
The captain's eyes widen. The aircraft has switched to manual control. Both autopilots off. According to Cat 3 rules, they must immediately go around, but for a moment, both pilots freeze. The first officer says,
Autopilot off, sir.
The captain replies,
Trying to re-engage.
but the system will not allow it. Below 800 feet, dual autopilot cannot be re-engaged. The aircraft starts drifting slightly left, climbing above the glide slope. A small deviation appears on the instruments. The first officer says,
We're high on the glide. No response. He repeats, 1 dot high.
Captain,
1 second. I'm fixing it.
they don't even realize that the plane has now gone off track. Both the localizer and glide slope are skewed, meaning the aircraft has drifted off the runway centerline and is also no longer on the correct descent path, and the fog is so dense that nothing is visible outside. Before either pilot can react, a loud voice suddenly echoes through the cockpit.
Sink rate. Pull up. Sink rate. Pull up.
The captain instantly lifts his head and looks forward, and he freezes in shock. Through the fog, he can now see something green emerging. It doesn't take him long to realize that isn't the runway, that's the ground. The captain shouts,
Toga. 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 Toga.
The throttles are pushed to full power. The nose starts to rise slightly, but it's already too late. The aircraft clips the grass area to the left side of the runway. A violent jolt shakes the entire cockpit. A loud crack follows. The plane's right main landing gear snaps off. Hydraulic fluid bursts out, and a red light flashes on the warning panel. Hydraulic system a failure. The captain pulls the nose up aggressively. The aircraft bounces, lifts again, and goes back into the air. The first officer panics.
We hit the ground.
Captain,
I know. Go around. Full thrust.
the plane starts climbing, but inside the cockpit, the gear unsafe alarm keeps ringing. Captain,
Don't touch the flaps. Don't touch anything. Just fly.
ATC, confused, calls them.
Quality 325 November. Confirm going around due to my previous message?
The first officer, breathing heavily, replies.
Negative. We touched the ground. We are going around.
The controller goes silent for a moment, then responds.
Okay, climb to 4,000 feet. Runway available if needed.
The first officer opens the emergency checklist.
Hydraulic A lost. Landing gear unsafe.
Captain interrupts.
Leave it. Just fly the plane. Leave it. Just fly the plane.
The first officer whispers.
Sir, I think our landing gear is gone.
Now ahead of them is a calm sky, and behind them lies a runway where their right landing gear is still sitting. TNT Airways Flight 325N is airborne, but it's now like a wounded bird. The entire right landing gear is missing. Hydraulic System A has failed, and the flaps are stuck in uneven positions. The aircraft is slightly rolling. The right side feels heavy. The instruments are stable, but handling is extremely difficult. The captain finally calls ATC.
Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Quality 325 November. We have a major problem. One landing gear is unsafe, hydraulics have failed, and fuel is low. We need clear weather and a long runway.
Verify 43.
The East Midlands controller responds immediately.
Roger, Mayday. We have fog here, but Birmingham is clear and has a long runway. Do you wish to divert?
After a brief pause, the captain replies,
Yes, Birmingham sounds good. We're diverting.
Controller.
Proceed direct to Birmingham. Runway 33 available. Emergency services standing by.
The first officer sets the heading.
Course set 330.
The plane turns gently, but vibrations continue. Hydraulic pressure is low, so manual trim adjustment is needed. The first officer whispers,
Fuel remaining 3.2 tons. Only 30 minutes.
Captain calculates.
Enough for one approach. No second chance.
East Midlands ATC dispatches a police helicopter to inspect the aircraft from below. Moments later, the radio crackles.
Quality 325 November. Your left and nose gear look fine, but your right gear is completely missing.
The first officer's face turns pale.
But the captain stays composed. All right then. We'll do a partial gear-up landing.
Meaning? They will land using only 2 gears, left main and nose, and they must keep the right wing lifted until the last moment. This will essentially be a controlled crash. Captain.
Listen, keep the right wing up till the very end. As soon as it drops, shut the engines and hold control.
The first officer nods, hands on throttle. He reads the emergency steps.
Fuel pumps off on landing signal. Crossfeed closed. Hydraulic B on standby.
The captain glances at him.
We can do this.
The aircraft now enters Birmingham airspace. A faint orange glow is visible on the horizon. Clear skies and a long runway ahead. The tower calls.
Quality 325 November. Cleared for ILS. Approach runway 33. Emergency vehicles ready. Wind calm.
Captain.
Roger, cleared for ILS 33. Thank you for your help.
They start the approach. Autopilot is no longer available. This must be entirely manual. The first officer tunes the localizer.
Glide slope alive.
The captain adjusts throttle. The plane is steady, but the drag on the right side is still there. A TC broadcasts to ground units.
All units, aircraft on final. Damaged gear. Expect sparks.
Fire brigades and ambulances stand ready along both sides of the runway. Inside the cockpit, tension is at its peak. Captain quietly.
Flaps 25.
The first officer follows. The flaps deploy unevenly. The plane rolls slightly. Captain quickly corrects.
I got it. Steady now.
The plane is on final approach.
1,000 feet, 800, 600.
The captain's hands grip the throttles, eyes flicking between the instruments and the windshield. He says calmly,
Left gear first, nose later.
Automatic call-outs echo.
500, 400.
Captain, brace for landing. The first officer closes the checklist, holds his controls.
Ready.
Runway lights are clearly visible now. The aircraft descends steadily, right wing held high, left side low. Both pilots fix their gaze on the runway threshold. The runway is right ahead, and under Birmingham's clear skies, TNT Airways, Flight 325N, begins the most dangerous landing of its life. The captain is calm, but fully focused. Captain.
Right engine idle, shut it down.
First officer.
Right engine fuel lever. Cut off.
The right engine dies. The plane becomes even more unbalanced, but this reduces fire risk on touchdown. The captain breathes deeply.
Okay, here we go.
Throttle slowly back. Aircraft descending. Left wing slightly tilted. This is the real moment of truth. Altitude calls.
100, 50, 30, 20.
A soft thump is heard. The left landing gear touches the ground. Then the nose gear. The plane bounces slightly, but the captain holds control firmly. For a moment, it feels like a miracle. The plane is balanced. The right wing is still in the air. The pilots look at each other, almost unable to believe it. But the relief doesn't last. A sudden metallic scrape echoes through the cockpit. The right engine housing has touched the runway. Sparks burst out. Streaking bright orange across the black tarmac, the cockpit shakes violently, vibrations growing. Captain cuts all power.
Power off. Hold it steady.
The plane continues to grind along the runway. The smell of burning metal fills the air. Fire trucks create a protective layer behind the aircraft. The plane slows, drags, and finally comes to a stop on the left side of the runway. The first officer whispers,
"We stopped."
The captain smiles faintly.
"Yeah, we did."
He sets the parking brake, switches off battery and fuel. Both pilots lean back in their seats, eyes closed for a moment. Outside, fire crews are visible. The pilots give them a thumbs up through the window. There was no fire, no explosion. A miracle indeed. Captain radios in,
"Birmingham Tower, quality 325 November. Aircraft stopped, no fire, both crew safe."
Tower replies,
"Copy that, quality 325N. Emergency crews approaching. Fantastic job, gentlemen."
Minutes later, the cockpit door opens. Rescue teams help both pilots out. They are exhausted, but alive. The aircraft sits on the runway like a wounded survivor. Right side torn open, metal twisted, engine scraped, hydraulic stains everywhere. But there was no fire, so the cargo is safe. People at the airport call it a miracle landing. But for the pilots, it wasn't a miracle. It was a nightmare they survived through discipline and sheer will. After rescue, the investigation begins with one big question. How did this situation even happen? A few days later, the findings shock everyone. First, ATC's confusing message, "You are not to land here," was transmitted at the worst possible moment. Second, the autopilot disconnect was an accidental button press, a tiny human error that triggered a massive chain reaction. And then, the delayed decision to go around, the fatigue and the confusion, all played a major role. The report concludes, the crew displayed exceptional control in extremely difficult circumstances. Despite landing gear failure, their judgment and calm attitude saved the aircraft. Had they not maintained such composure, survival was unlikely. A small mistake pushed the entire aircraft to the edge of disaster. Every crash is a tragedy, but some become stories of human courage and survival. TNT Airways' the Flight 325N is one such story, where death came terrifyingly close, but no one lost their life.